Hello and welcome to Question Time from Channel TV's Global Headquarters. I'm Benga Ashuru. While the Nigerian government continues to slug it out in its war against corruption, one of its many faces, this hydra-headed monster, which appears most cancerous and deadly, is the scourge of fake drugs. The merchants of this illicit trade are unrelenting and dead serious in their mission to make a fortune of their billions invested into fake drugs. But the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, is saying the time is up for the peddlers of these clandestine deals. We met with the Director General of the agency, Professor Christiana Mojisola Adeyeye. She says the removal of NAFDAC's agents from the airports has paved the way for the increase of fake drugs into the country. But she says the narrative is changing with the return of the gatekeepers.
NAFDAC is not overwhelmed because of the problems that we have in the country. The problems actually were precipitated because NAFDAC was removed from the ports in 2011. Despite the fact that we have been returned back to the ports now, we're not overwhelmed.
Why was NAFDAC removed from the ports?
To tell you the truth, I don't really know. I discovered that NAFDAC was not at the port maybe 2 weeks into my resumption, and I was shocked because NAFDAC is supposed to be controlling importation of drugs. So if the regulator that is supposed to be at the port is not there, then you can figure it out that we will have had all these problems. But I don't know why. However, with all the problems we have, we are not overwhelmed. It is a multinational problems, it's global problems. The world customs...
So is NAFDAC back to the ports now?
We went back to the ports as of May 16 this year,
okay.
Which is a great thing for the Buhari administration to do. Because if you look at the time when, or since when NAFDAC was removed from the ports, and also link it with criminality, drug abuse, is going to be a straight line if you plot a graph, because we let our ports...
Okay, let's do a comparative analysis
yes.
now. From when it was removed from the port and now that it's back to the ports.
Yes.
Now, has there been any drastic reduction in the drug wave into the country?
There has been a drastic interception of drugs that are being shipped into the country since then. However, we look at 2011 to 2018. That's my point. That the rise in drug abuse, the rise in criminality due to drug abuse rose within that period. That is what we should bear in mind, 7 years. But since we came back, that's just about 5 months ago, we've seen a lot of interceptions from our side, NAFDAC intercepting containers of tramadol and other illicit drugs. Again, 5 months compared to 7 years. The statistics don't match, but we are treading along. Just like I said, it's a global problem. The world customs agencies are at alert. The United Nations are at alert. As we speak, in the US, the opioid crisis is a big national problem. So it is not, Nigeria is not isolated as such.
But have you been able to find a homegrown solution to this menace?
The homegrown solutions are multi-sectoral. NAFDAC being at the ports is one of them. Enlightenment is a big part of it.
And is NAFDAC playing that role of enlightening the public?
We are starting to play it now. The presidency has waded into this. The National Orientation Office is wading into this. The task force, the National Task Force, which resides in NAFDAC, is going to be playing a big role in terms of investigation and enforcement. we, NAFDAC Inspection Division, we are heightening up our inspections. For years, NAFDAC didn't have as many vehicles as they should have to do effective inspections. So we're going to be getting, we've been promised vehicles from different sectors. I'm hoping that within the next 2-3 months, we should have at least enough vehicles to really do effective inspections. Because when you look at it...
But what is the exact magnitude of the problem the nation is confronting? Are we at the breaking point when it comes to counterfeit drugs?
Counterfeit drugs and illicit drugs are completely different. For counterfeit drugs, we are not at a breaking point at all. About 15 to 17% of drugs that enter Nigeria, I'm talking of imported drugs, are counterfeit. They are fake, substandard. Most of the drugs that are made within the country are not counterfeited. They are not faked. So the problems we have are with imports. And that's part of the reason why we are putting emphasis on local production. Because when you have a company at your arm's length, so to say, you can easily monitor them.
When you talk of monitoring now, have you been able to identify the traffic routes and the major crime spots of this drug peddling?
Actually, yes. We've been able to identify the different crime spots in the country. Some I cannot disclose because, they are kept under surveillance and we cannot disclose that.
Why is it kept under surveillance?
You cannot, when you want to catch a thief, you don't announce to the thief that you're going to catch them. That's just the way.
Does that suggest a bit of intimidation on NAFDAC?
No, not intimidation.